Zukowska Carames. Aldona is a seasoned financial professional and strategic advisor with extensive experience in the crypto and blockchain sectors. In addition to her advisory role, she is organizing a cutting-edge event focused on digital assets, blockchain adoption, and financial innovation. Aldona, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm great. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Thank you. So you've had an extensive career in traditional banking with major institutions like Santander. What was the moment that led you to transition into the Bitcoin space? And what has been like the most challenging part of that shift?
Yes. Well, my journey from the traditional banking to Bitcoin began around 2019 during the period of the intense reflection on the flaws in the global financial system. Working in institutions like Santander, UniCredit, some local Spanish banks, I witnessed firsthand, the rigidity of legacy system, like endless layers of intermediaries, vulnerabilities to central bank policies that devalue fiat currencies, and the exclusion of many people from the banking financial services. And the pivotal moment came in 2020, I think, for a lot of Bitcoiners, like new Bitcoiners, during the COVID crisis. I started to listen to Michael Saylor like on a daily basis. My husband works in strategy, so it was like inevitable listening to it like almost 24/7. So then I started to realize that there is hope, there is a solution for all these fiat system vulnerabilities. And the most challenging part was the shift also in my head and the head of my colleagues. Everyone was treating from the very beginning Bitcoin as the Ponzi scheme. It was like completely dismissed as decentralized, as not being under the control of anyone. So it was like completely rejected. So it cost me a lot because I had to unlearn like years and years of fiat-centric thinking and explain to myself and later on to my colleagues, to my friends, to everyone I knew, that the way that Bitcoin works is completely different, but it's much better. So this is how the journey started. I haven't stopped thinking about Bitcoin, learning about Bitcoin, studying Bitcoin, teaching Bitcoin since then. And I think that now going and organizing this event was like the natural path, like natural journey. I started my podcast 3 months ago, and I realized that it's not enough. So we have to do something more to spread the knowledge, because it's not yet there where it is, for example, in the United States. In Spain, it's not coming at the same stage.
Yeah, before we went live, you mentioned that a lot of people in Spain not familiar with Michael Saylor, for example, in the Bitcoin space. So it's really, obviously, is a really valuable thing to be offering the podcast that you have and the event, because the information just really isn't there yet. It's not as embedded in the culture and people's understanding like it is in the US and the UK, it seems.
Yes. I think, the main gap that we have is the language gap. When I was asked to share some materials, I was always sharing the podcast with Michael Saylor, Robert Bridle, What is Money show. It was like the basis. But nobody wanted to listen nothing in English. They said, no, send me something in Spanish. So this is when I realized that there is the gap. This language gap. So now the idea is to bring all those guests, international guests, known all over the world, to Spain, so that Spanish audience get to know them, but translate everything to Spanish and open those doors, because I think the opportunity is huge, but we are still stuck in Spain within the cyberpunk, very technological, very technical topics, and nobody's explaining to the normies, as we say, to the normal people, how it really works. And it's very simple. People are still like very afraid because they think it's so complicated, and it's not. You can just download the app, buy Bitcoin in 2 minutes. It's sometimes even easier than any other banking app. But this knowledge is not getting. So my mission is to bring it to people and to see that it's like money of the future. And the education is a key, of course, but we need to bring this education and to bring it on the other level, on this functional, more normal level for normies, but also to the institutional level.
Right. It's a really fantastic offering. I think it's great that you're having an event in Spain with these guests and then having it translated. It's really amazing because I haven't been to any Bitcoin events, but I imagine they're all very English speaking is probably the dominant language at a lot of these things, and so it is an incredible offering. I just want to backtrack a second because you'd mentioned you kind of began this journey in 2020. You mentioned that your husband works at Strategy. Had you kind of, obviously your husband works at Strategy, you had an awareness of Bitcoin. Was it in 2020 you sort of really got into it? And sort of what was your discovery of Bitcoin before you were really into it? Was there a time when you were like, this sounds crazy, or did you always get it? What was that journey like?
Well, the first time I had the training regarding Bitcoin was 2017. It was like the obligatory training that was sent by the bank that I was working for. But it was like 3-day training. Yes, very intense training, but we just left it there. We came back to our BAU, very intense BAU. I've been always working like 16, 18 hours. It was like normal day. So you never had time to really get deep and understand what's behind it. But, we always were hearing about it somewhere there, but we never like dive deep into it. And then the COVID came, Michael Saylor started talking about it. And when we started to listen to him and we saw that in August 2020, he went all in for us after hearing like hundreds and hundreds of hours of everything that he was speaking all around, for us, it was clear. So since October 2020, we were like all in, and our discussions were very boring now. All our discussions are around the same topic, politics, finance, everything around Bitcoin. Once you get to one rabbit hole, then you start to discover another. But it's like very nice to have someone next to you that is like sharing the same vision. So it's like it's easier. It's easier to get to know, and it's easier to sacrifice the time, and it's easier to spread the knowledge. We are still working on our friends and some families, but most of them are already orange pilled. So this is good news.
Congrats! Nice. Done.
Yeah.
There should be like a I don't know, like a badge for the amount of people that you kind of get interested. With the work that you do right now in traditional banking, is there any overlap with Bitcoin and blockchain technology, or is it still quite traditional, the work that you do now?
I'm working the project, so I'm now delivering the project. All my life in banking industry was opening up the banks from scratch. I started here in Spain. I was bringing the banks from UK to Spain. Then I went to Poland. I opened up Santander there in Poland. It was always like moving bank from one localization to another. Now my job is quite similar, but it's like not closing in one place and opening in another, but expanding the traditional banks, more digital, but still traditional focused banks to other places. The focus within the bank, it's still, as you can imagine, 98%, let's say, on the traditional banking, although it's wrapped in these digital instruments. However, the focus on the blockchain and what are the digital assets, it's been commented on for the last year or two. And there are some new products that are being developed and are being delivered in Spanish market in some of the biggest banks. For now, we are talking about the custody, not only for Bitcoin, also for other altcoins, which I do not share this vision, but okay, this is the bank's vision. The next step, what I see is that the banks should enter the field as other exchanges here in Spain are already entering, is having Bitcoin as the collateral, because I think that each and every banking product, is perfect tool to be collateralized with Bitcoin. I wrote some articles about it. I think that mortgages with Bitcoin as collateral, especially for Bitcoin maxis that just hold their Bitcoin and they never sell it, it's a great solution. Same for the personal loans, same for debit cards, same for more institutional pension funds, bonds. But I think there is a long way to go. Banks, as you know, they are huge entities. They are working like a huge ministries. The progress is quite slow. It's not a fintech that is taking decisions in the very agile way. So we've got already the fintech part, exchanges, local exchanges, very good one that are already offering Bitcoin as a collateral. But I think for the banks, it's a future, but it's not there yet. And it's going to take time.
Yeah, they're definitely a little bit slow with the uptick. And it seems like we're seeing a lot of interest as everybody else is doing very well. And now they're scrambling. Well, if we don't do this, we're going to get left behind type of thing. It seems very reactive and not very forward. Yeah. I was wondering what your take is on why Bitcoin treasury companies are kind of coming to the forefront so much. Why do you think it's important to have an asset like Bitcoin on corporate balance sheets? And is there a way that companies should approach that safely?
I think for many of the companies, especially those that are struggling, this is the only way. Look at the strategy. Like I said, I was always repeating that it took him years and years and years to try to catch up with, for example, his competitors like Microsoft. And he realized it's like not possible. In the fiat world, there is a winner, and on the other side, there is a loser. If one wins, like for example, Amazon, the rest of the retailers are losing. The same is going on with the technological companies. When Microsoft is winning, the rest is losing. They are like being whales eating out the small fishes. So he was struggling for years. He had a lot of cash flow, but the cash flow was staying there at the account, and he was losing 8 to 10% of the value per year. So he went to the point that he was losing like 50 million of the real value of the gains per year. And no matter how hard he tried, he didn't find any other solution to save this effect of this hard work, of this hard-earned money. So then he discovered Bitcoin, and he decided to go all in. Of course, there were a lot of critics saying that he's crazy, that it's not going to work. But now we can see it's only been 5 years now that he's all in Bitcoin, that his strategy of issuing convertible bonds, of issuing preferred stocks, of changing everything to Bitcoin paid off. The Bitcoin for the last 5 years rose by 850%, while the shares of strategy rose by 2,500%. And the same for the other companies that followed his playbook, like MetaPlanet, like the Smarter Web company. They're all winning. Because in the world the fiat world, the companies are struggling. They can, of course, choose the way of mergers and acquisitions. They can put the excess of the cash to buy other companies, but they will see the return on this investment within 2, 3, 10 years or never. Because 80% of the startups doesn't survive more than 2, 3 years. So within Bitcoin, for example, MetaPlanet, they invested in Bitcoin, and 4 months later, their share price rocketed like by 1,000%. It's crazy. Of course, not all the companies will perform as well as they do. It depends of many factors. There are lots of new KPIs that we should be looking at. Valuation of the companies, especially public companies, with the old KPIs does not serve at all here. We need to see other KPIs like Bitcoin per share, like MNAV, like all the reporting they're doing, like the strategy that they have, the long term, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot to be catch up on. Capital markets are already very, very complex, and capital markets in this new scenario with Bitcoin in the middle is even more complex. So a lot of people will learn, a lot of them will win, but a lot of them will lose. We already saw the first merger of Strive and Seamless Scientific. Seamless Scientific was the second one after Strategy that took the strategy of buying Bitcoin, but they preferred to do the merge with Strive for many reasons. For example, those MNAV was not as good as the Strategies one. So for sure, we're going to see much more mergers on the market, but I think that this is the future. The surge will be huge. We already have more than 6% of all the Bitcoins in circulation being bought by those institutions. It's like 21 times more than when MicroStrategy was started. So I think this is just the beginning, and I think this is the only way for the companies to catch up with the cost of capital, to catch up with the inflation, and to survive on the very aggressive market.
It was interesting, something that stuck out to me that you mentioned there about a strategy. The price of Bitcoin has gone up by 800% since in the 5 years that he's been holding it, and the share price of the company has gone up 2,000%. I'm curious, like, to me, the numbers don't add up. Like, if the value of the thing that you're holding, that is the business, the kind of core asset of the business hasn't gone up, but the share price has, is it not just, where is that additional increase in share price come from? Is that not just speculation at that point? Is there like true value in something that has justified the extra 2,000 when the Bitcoin itself has only gone up 800?
Yeah, the clue is in the MNAV. This is like the very KPIs that everyone is looking at. MNAV, it's nothing more like the valuation that the market is giving to the company that has Bitcoin in the treasury. It's not new. It was for the first time implemented and discussed very like heavily in 80s, at the moment where Microsoft started to get to the market. So MNAV is the multiplicator of what the market is predicting for the future, for what the share price will value in the future. So for example, for Michael Saylor's strategy, it is 2 MNAV, but for the other companies, they are valued below MNAV. Like, for example, now the share costs $100, MNAV is 0.7. So the market, for many different reasons, is valuating it for below the current price. So this is like the trust that the market is giving to the strategy and to all the operations that the companies are doing around buying of the Bitcoin and the Bitcoin treasury company strategy. So this is a clue, but it's all based on the trust on what the market is perceiving for the future of the company.
Yeah. That's kind of the only way that I could make sense of it being about that. Thank you for breaking that down. All right, why don't we talk about MadBitcoin Summit? So what inspired you to launch that? I mean, you kind of touched on it before. There seems like a real need for education and bringing people in the space to Spain to meet with people there. But yeah, what was the genesis of this? Has it been in development for a while? And what are some of your goals for the event? I think we might have some technical difficulties. Aldona? All right, we're going to take a quick break and see if we can get Aldona back online. I will be right back.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin?
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
Welcome back, everyone. We were having a discussion with Aldona. She's back. And yeah, the question that I was asking was about the MadBitcoin Summit that you're organizing. What's your goals for the event? And yeah, what was the sort of genesis of this? Has it been something that you kind of recently decided to do, or have you always wanted to do something like this?
Yeah. So I saw the huge necessity here locally in Spain to bringing the knowledge regarding what Bitcoin really is, not only on the technical level, but also the institutional level. We've got some local meetups here in Spain, but they are all very focused on cyberpunks, on Bitcoin, very beginner ethos. Nobody's talking for like normal people. Nobody's talking to institutions and seeing what's going on in the United States, especially, but also now all over the world, I think Spain really deserves to get this knowledge here. So the idea behind is to bring all the guests that I know from listening to them like for years now, that I still know that nobody here even understands what they're talking about, to bring them all to Spain, to translate all this knowledge to Spanish so that it's like more available for people that have no idea about Bitcoin, about finance, about money, because I think there is still like a huge misunderstanding of really what money is. And the focus of the event will not be that technical, as I said, but I want to bring it to the institutions. I think that the small enterprises, especially retail enterprises in Europe and in Spain, they are struggling. We all know they're struggling. We've got the inflation. We've got a lot of enterprises that are not surviving more than 2-3 years. And I think that there is a huge opportunity for them, not only for the public companies. There are already a lot of public companies all over the world. In Spain, we just have now first one public company that became Bitcoin Treasury Company, which is a huge success. They just announced it like 3 weeks ago. So we are just starting, but not there yet where the United States is. And I think that the potential here in Spain is enormous. We are a great bridge between what the LATAM is, because of the many people from South America living in Spain, because of this language connection that we have. I think there are a lot of things that we can do together, and I think this knowledge will be priceless for them. So the focus will be on the institutions. I want to bring also the banking industry. I want to bring the energy sector, because in Spain, as you know, we are having 300 days of sun. We are having a lot of photovoltaic energy, and I think it's not used with the whole full potential that it has. Bitcoin mining is not discussed anywhere, and I think Spain is a great place to discuss, is to bring together regulators, bring together the energy sector, put them at the same table, and see what solutions we can develop here. There is no such event here at this part of the Europe. There are great, like more east in Prague, wonderful, great event. We've got other in Amsterdam, but they are all focused more on this cyberpunk techie ethos. There is no Bitcoin treasury companies focused event, and I think it's a great idea. We will be doing something similar as Bitcoin Treasury Unconference in New York that was organized by Tim Kotzman and July on 17th of September. The big news is that they are onboarding with me for this project. They're gonna be co-organizers and co-producers of the event. So I've got great guys with me helping to organize the best speakers, the best companies to come. So it's gonna be huge, and I'm really, really excited for that.
It sounds very exciting. Yeah, what a really valuable event, and just something that is needed in the area. You're in Madrid, is that right?
Yes, we are in Madrid, and the event will be in Madrid. So there are going to be a lot of side events related to Spanish culture, because I think Spain has a lot to offer. We have this rebellion, libertarian spirit all over. We have Picasso, we've got Dali, we've got Cervantes. They were all very revolutionary minds. So lots of great events, lots of great things to do. And I want people to not only come to the conference to see the panels, to do the business, to do the networking, but also feel Spain, because I think it has a lot to offer.
Fantastic. You kind of began your journey, started educating people in 2019. How have you seen the sentiment around Bitcoin change from then to now? I mean, obviously there's the global scale, and then also in Spain.
I think there is still a lot of confusion. Confusion, because there are lots of events that are blockchain tokens, stable coins, crypto focused, and they are all mixing Bitcoin with all this stuff, which has nothing to do. So for me, as a Bitcoiner that spent thousands and thousands of hours studying Bitcoin, sometimes it's frustrating, sometimes I give up, and sometimes I just say, okay, let's just go on. If I orange peel just 1% of people, that's enough. If I orange peel one person, I explain the difference, it's gonna be enough. Of course, I understand that there are lots of great investment funds that are pro all the coins, because they need to sell the portfolio to their clients and they need to diversify it, but they are still like looking at the crypto market via the fiat lenses. Nothing changes there. So they do not distinguish what is fiat world, what is Bitcoin world. For them, it's the same. They just go for it because they want to sell as much services as possible. And that's fine. This is their business. But it's not for everyone. We have seen what happened this weekend with all this terrible bearish moment that we all faced. So I didn't even blink because if you've got this conviction, if you're doing things like calmly in a bored way, in a very boring way, you just don't take care of the gambling, because this is the gambling. You don't leverage, so you are not reacting with this panic way that the others do. But if you don't do the homework, if you don't understand the difference, and if you're treating crypto and Bitcoin as just the other asset, any other asset that you always that you are used to look at as if it was just traditional capital markets, you're going to react the same way, you're going to act in the same way, the risk that you're going to take will be the same way. But once you do the homework and you zoom out, you're just going to stay calm, 10%, 20%, even 30, 50% crash in Bitcoin. We already been there, and we know that will always go up because we understand how it works, because we know the proof of work is behind. Not all the altcoins can say that. I think none of them. There was one that had proof of work, but they resigned. They said, no, we don't care. We just go for proof of stake. So there's going to be...
Which one was this one?
Ethereum. They started with proof of work, and then they just said, no, it's too much of energy. Let's just make up something virtual. So for me, it's like how we say in Spain, it's like a smoke. Yeah, it's like the producing everything from thin air. Just like central banks are printing money from the thin air. Now we've got private companies, startups that are printing coins from the thin air. They do not guarantee that they will not print more, so it will inflate. They do not guarantee that they will not burn it out just at any time they can. So Bitcoin is trustless. Bitcoin doesn't have the owner. So once you understand this advantage over the rest, you would see that you would never be at the situation that many have passed through this weekend, that they lost a lot of money. But people need to understand this difference. And this difference is very hard to grasp when there is so much of noise. And there are a lot of noise everywhere. So I think that the conference that I'm organizing is very focused on Bitcoin, because I want people to understand that the risks are huge. And if you don't do the homework and you want to enter the crypto space without doing the homework, you're going to lose a lot of money, because it's a gambling. For me, everything that is not like buying and holding, it's a gambling. And of course, it's cold storage. People say it's boring. I understand it may be very boring. There are people that are addicted to adrenaline. Okay, their money, their choice, their losses and their profits. But it's not for everyone. For sure, it's not for me. And this is the message I want to bring on the table with this conference. And I want people see the advantage that Bitcoin has over the rest.
Fantastic. Well, one of the next question I had was about what are the biggest hurdles for companies adopting Bitcoin as a strategy, and how can they overcome them? And I think sort of the confusion, like you were just talking about, is probably one of them, especially in Spain. But yeah, are there any other kind of challenges that you can think of? Getting shareholders on board and things like that. Is that a bit of a challenge?
Yes, I think that first there is lack of the education. People don't know where to start from, because of course it's great. Okay, Megaster is doing it. Let's do it. No, you cannot just let's do it. You need to have a clear vision of where you want to go. You need to know how the instruments are working, convertible bonds, preferred stocks. There is MiCA in the middle. There is this new regulation in Europe that is tightening hands to a lot of the startups, the companies. I'm speaking to a lot of startups that are saying, if I were to start now, instead of having started 5 years ago, I would not be able to do anything. So the regulations are there. It's good because we need to regulate things, but I think that we are always like over-regulating. in Europe. There is no such push for innovation as we see it in the United States and the other parts of the world. Here we are always starting with regulating. So I think this is like the first stopper. The second stopper is once you understand it, you need to convince the market that the products that you are selling, issuing, are worth it. So Michael Saylor is the first one. Everyone, when he's issuing convertible bonds, everyone is there because the market trusts in what he's doing. It's not going to be as easy for each and every follower, especially here in Spain. It's going to take time. As I said, we already have one pioneer Spanish company that started doing it. It's going to, for sure, open the doors. But it's going to take time because first, we don't know what the money is. We don't understand what Bitcoin is. And less we understand what the potential as Bitcoin treasury company is. So this event, coming back to my event, is especially for this kind of people, this kind of companies that want to come, want to learn, want to speak to the ones that were already there, know all the pros, all the cons, educate themselves. We're going to make a lot of practical workshops, and hopefully that with those tools, they can finish the summit and they can start building the future of their company within this framework of Bitcoin treasury companies.
It sounds really like a great event. So it's not just going to be, speakers on a stage. You mentioned people sitting down with speakers. There's going to be workshops and stuff like that. Very interactive, it sounds like.
Yes, that's the idea. I have been in few events, and when I was inviting people, I was speaking about my idea. Everyone was saying, Aldona, please make less panels, but more networking and more practical workshops. Like everyone is talking about it. And I see it's true. When you go to the events, there are fewer and fewer people like listening to the speakers because, okay, we already know everything about Bitcoin, but there are more need for doing business during the conference and doing this real networking and learning very practical stuff. So the idea is this, as you mentioned, the idea is to bring people to the workshops, to put the beginners with the experts, give them the tools, to share all the knowledge that already is there all over the world, to bring the regulators, and so that everyone can starting from there, building their completely new future within this world, because I think it's really, really worth it. And as I said, we have seen lots of companies in the United States flourishing after choosing this path, and we need to bring this knowledge here to Spain.
Absolutely. You touched on the regulation. I'm curious, given your experience working in regulated banking, how do you view the current regulatory landscape? I mean, you touched on MiCA and companies saying that it's too restrictive. We've heard that a lot in some of the stories that we've reported on.
Yeah.
But yeah, what role do you see the regulators playing in the adoption of like corporate Bitcoin use? Is it a big part to play there?
Yes, I think for Bitcoin treasury space, what is really important is to be able to find the exchange to custody the Bitcoins that they're buying. Of course, there are lots of exchanges, but everyone that is the expert in the security, they are like very distant to having your Bitcoin on the exchange that can be hacked. That depends on the third party. On the other hand, you've got cold wallet solutions, but if you are a huge company and you are buying billions in Bitcoin, you just cannot wear the cold wallet in your pocket. So you need to find something in between. There are solutions like, okay, you can buy MicroStrategy products. So you're already entering Bitcoin space, although not directly. You can buy ETFs. You're having Bitcoin, although not directly. But still, you need to trust the third party. So what is really important for the future are the solution, like very robust solution, so that once you custody those billions of Bitcoins, you can be sure that you will not lose it, or because you lose your cold wallet, or because someone will hack the exchange that you are in. The Bitcoin maximalists will say that if you're real a Bitcoiner, the responsibility for everything you do is yours. It's only yours. And no matter how much Bitcoin you have, you should be only one responsible for the custody. I agree, but I don't agree in terms of the big institutions, as I said, because you cannot expect big company with a lot of people working in putting all the cash flow, all the operating profits into Bitcoin and then just losing it because someone forgot their their keys. Yeah. So I think this is the future. This is the challenge, and of course, regulators must be there to make sure that these exchanges are operating in the robust legal framework for those companies to feel safe once taking this path.
That makes sense. With Bitcoin gaining traction as a store of value, how do you see institutions like pension funds and insurance companies or central banks incorporating Bitcoin into their portfolio, say in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think that for sure they're going to move from the niche to more global adoption. I'm not saying 50%, not even 20%, but if we are talking about at least 5, 10% of the institutional portfolios moving to Bitcoin, we're speaking about the global adoption each and every time, like more, the bigger the global one. There are some calculations done that we can expect up to 50 trillion globally by 2030 if pension funds are there. I think it's very optimistic, but I think it's very necessary. I always it's like my my insider story, but this is like a story with the pension funds that we are having here in Spain. There are almost 700 different pension funds operating in Spain, and only three out of 700 have overcome the inflation in the last 5 years. So they are all losing. So if at least 1% of these pension funds were investing in Bitcoin, they could at least, if not overcome inflation, at least get to the level of the inflations that we have and not lose money for the clients. So I think the potential is huge. As I said, same for banking. The Bitcoiners that understand Bitcoin, I hope that more and more people in the world understand Bitcoin, will never want to lose their Bitcoin. They will never want to sell their Bitcoin, but they will need at some point of the time the liquidity. So they will need the instruments like loans, like mortgages, like debit cards, with the Bitcoin as the collateral. So there is a huge market for the banking and the financial institution to be developed. And we are not there yet. We've got Coinbase and we've got some local exchanges here in Spain that are offering it, but that's it. And or they adapt this way, or they're gonna lose in front of those exchanges, because finally they will eat the market or that was traditionally booked for these institutions.
Well, my last question before we dive into the news is, for people just beginning their Bitcoin journey, whether as investors or corporate executives or financial professionals, what advice would you give to help them navigate the complexities of the space? Because it can be quite confusing, like you mentioned earlier, for people new to the space.
Yeah. Well, first, listen to my podcast.
Great idea. Second, attend the event.
Then you go to my event. And of course, there are lots of evangelists that I'm following from the very, very beginning, lots of books. My favorite, of course, Michael Saylor. Everything Michael Saylor is saying is worth listening. The way that he speaks about Bitcoin, the way that he's doing analogy with the normal word that everyone understands, it's just priceless. Of course, Robert Bridlow, Natalie Brunel. I love the way she's her guest and the way she's explaining it. The books, Bitcoin Standard is like a Bible for the Bitcoiners. But the one that opened my eyes, that Bitcoin was mentioned just once in one sentence, was The Price of Tomorrow of Jeff Booth. Me as the economist and as a banker and as a person that was convinced that the world is just working like it is, when I started my journey, I already read a lot of books, I already heard thousands of podcasts, but I was not that convinced as after reading this book. So Jeff Booth, The Price of Tomorrow is a must-have.
Got it. Great tips there. I'm writing that down. The Price of Tomorrow. Has there been anybody that you've interviewed for your podcast that really has kind of given you a had any light bulb moments with somebody that you've interviewed, or has it just sort of getting
Yes.
information that mostly you kind of have a good sense of, or did anybody really like grab your attention with something?
Well, Alexander said when he came talking about Bitcoin Treasury Company, he's director of Bitcoin strategy in Capital V. So he really he explains how the Bitcoin Treasury Company works and why it's so important in such a bright way. And the other person, Mark Moss, the way he speaks, the way he's introducing you to the financial world, it's just fascinating. I love to listen to him. I hope that he will come to my event. Let's see if it happens. Yeah. So this will be two. But each and every guest has got like a different point of view on the Bitcoin. Bitcoin has so much of the rabbit holes, and as we say, so we can talk about Bitcoin from 360 angles, and we will never stop. We're just gonna go around, and always you will discover other things. So this is fascinating about Bitcoin. It's not only finance, not only technology. It's everything. It's politics. It's philosophy. It's even religion for some. So it's fascinating. It's the journey that once you start, you will never stop, and it's amazing. It's amazing. That's why I enjoy it so much. That's why I want so many people to get on board, to understand it, and to take the profit of what it really offers. Because I think lots of lives can be saved thanks to Bitcoin. See, Bitcoin saved my life in one point of life when I was like very frustrated. I was like very down. I saw that the effort that we were doing, we were working, it was always punished. The more you work, the more punished you are with taxes, with more responsibility that doesn't go anywhere. And then Bitcoin comes and it just opens totally different door. So the hope is there. Bitcoin is hope, as Michael Saylor says, and I cannot agree more.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, I feel your passion. It's contagious, infectious. It's amazing.
Thank you.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will dive into a couple of news stories. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin?
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you, don't go!
Welcome back, everyone, and now it's time to dive into the news. As always, we'll start with the top Bitcoin price story. It's top of the block.
Okay.
Binance says it will compensate users who lost money after several major tokens suddenly crashed during a system outage on Friday. The world's largest crypto exchange said the disruptions affected trading in wrapped beacon Ethereum known as WBETH, Binance staked Solana, aka BN Sol, and Athena's synthetic dollar USDE. These are special versions of popular tokens designed to mirror the prices of assets like Ethereum and Solana. At around 9:40 p.m. UTC on Friday, WBETH plunged as low as $430, an 88% drop from Ethereum's market price at the time. BN Sol also crashed to about $35, while USDE fell sharply to 65 cents. Yi He, Binance's co-founder and chief customer officer, apologized on social media, saying the platform had experienced a surge of users and extreme market volatility. She said anyone who believes their losses were caused directly by Binance's technical issues should contact customer service to request compensation. The company will review cases individually, but stressed that normal market losses or missed profits won't qualify. Experts say the crash happened because Binance's system buckled under heavy trading, locking out market makers, the traders who help keep the prices stable. With those traders unable to buy and sell quickly, prices fell out of sync with the rest of the market. To prevent a repeat, Binance has switched to a new pricing method for wrapped tokens. Instead of relying on volatile spot market prices, it will now base values on the amount of the underlying asset each token represents, a move the exchange says will bring more stability during market stress. So Aldona, this is kind of like an example of just the space getting quite complex, and there's just so much to play with. It was an unfortunate situation that happened, but yeah, I don't know. What do you make of this? To me, it's just like, this is just kind of other altcoins, tokens, playing games type of thing. What was your take on what happened with Binance over the weekend?
Well, I think what happened with Binance is just another example of how cryptocurrencies are already included in our daily life. It's not something that is completely apart from the capital markets as we know it. What happened in Binance is the people that lost their money, the people that were panicking, they are the ones that were always there. They are just now playing with different assets. So the ones that are very pro-risk, they are not afraid of leveraging. We heard about some accounts that had 50x leverage. So it's not for everyone, but it's not something new. We saw this crash that maybe, if you compare it to the traditional capital markets, is very exaggerated, but please do not forget that the markets are much more liquid than the traditional markets. So traditional markets operate from Monday to Friday, from 9 to 5. But in these situations, we've got markets open 24/7. So of course, volatility is there. Of course, lots of movements are there. But what we saw is that in this situation, this particular situation, Bitcoin again was treated like as a safe haven. A lot of people that were losing money with the other altcoins were moving back to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin once again showed that it's not just the same altcoin as the rest of them. Of course, Binance had some technical issues. That's what they say. With this huge influence of the transactions, it's normal. I don't think anyone were prepared. Any of the exchange was prepared, but I think it had to be looked with more loop, with more detailed, because of course such situations cannot happen. But still, the education here is a key. It's still this market is still treated as a gambling. There are a lot of traders that are doing the trading. Bitcoiners are not that pro-risk. They are not that, at least I am not that pro-trade. I think Bitcoin, you buy and you don't sell it. You don't play with your Bitcoin. But this is the other lesson out of many to be learned. And once you study Bitcoin, you understand that trading it and putting yourself at such a risk just doesn't make sense. When you zoom out, it will always go up. Of course, it's very boring because you just buy Bitcoin and just do nothing. As Lawrence Lepard said, I just love the phrase, just buy Bitcoin and do nothing. But there are people that just love this adrenaline, and there they are. What else can I say?
Playing the game. Yeah, I'm with you there. All right, I think we have time for one more story, which is Coinbase is teaming up with American Express to launch a new credit card, and it's designed with Bitcoin fans in mind. Set to debut in the US this fall, Coinbase Amex card isn't just another crypto rewards card. It's built around Bitcoin's origin story. The card's design features real data from the Genesis block, the very first block created on the Bitcoin network by Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009. That block marked the birth of Bitcoin and included a now famous newspaper headline, "Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks." It was both a timestamp and a message, a critique of the traditional financial system during the 2008 crisis. By engraving this data, Coinbase is celebrating Bitcoin's roots in financial independence and resistance to centralized control. The card will be offered exclusively to Coinbase One subscribers, the company's paid membership tier. Users can earn up to 4% cash back in Bitcoin on everyday purchases, depending on how much crypto they hold on the platform. There will be no foreign transaction fees, and cardholders can repay their balance using either a bank account or crypto held with Coinbase. The card also includes the usual Amex perks, from exclusive events to special offers. While other exchanges like Gemini already offer crypto cashback cards, Coinbase is taking a different approach, marketing its Amex card not just as a financial tool, but as a tribute to Bitcoin's history and the ideals behind it. Okay, what do you think of this? I always thought that was quite a cool credit card to be offering where you get Bitcoin rewards. What do you think? Oh, are you there? Uh-oh. Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. Oh,
yeah, I'm here.
There?
Security matters.
Can we come back? We were going to take a quick break, but then I wanted to come back because we don't have you for that much longer. But yeah, not sure how much of that story you got there, but basically Coinbase offering a Bitcoin rewards card. Is that a good thing? In your opinion, what do you think? Would you be getting one?
Yes, I think Bitcoin adoption as the mean of payment, it's a clue. Jeff Booth, the author of the book that I mentioned earlier, he says that Bitcoin will not survive if it's not being used finally as a mean of payment. I think it's a great solution. We've got Gemini already there. We've got other companies that are already issuing the cards with the possibility of paying with Bitcoin. I think it's just like the natural step. As I said, Bitcoin will be finally adopted to the financial world. It will be finally adopted by banks. Earlier, it will be adapted by the fintechs like the Coinbase, like any other, that will just create banking-like products, but with the crypto as the collateral. And I think this is the future. It's unstoppable. Nothing will stop this train, as someone says.
Yeah.
And it's like the natural evolution of what the crypto world is going. And I think it's great news. The more competitors, the better for the consumer.
Agreed. Yeah, I was excited when I saw this offering. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really lovely talking to you and learning about you and the events and the podcast. Where can people find out more? When I guess tickets are on sale for Mad Bitcoin Summit already, and what are the dates for that?
Yes, you can find me on the event on madbitcoinsummit.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on X as @madbitcoin. And the tickets will be in sale this week. The webpage is already there. There are more than 20 guests already confirmed. You can have all the information there. And I'm really excited to invite you, everyone, to come to Madrid. It's going to be a great event and great fiesta.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I hope to speak to you soon. Take care.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Pleasure. Well, stay tuned. We'll be right back after this quick break.
Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
He's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.